guess we gotta.
I'm already. My goodness.
Still do that.
I was thinking I was late.
It's only regular.
I think they were testing.
Wasn't.
Sure. Wasn't you? Wow.
Attention, please.
Acting on Articles 1 and 2 of the Town of Lyman. Warrant dated on the third day of January 2023. Attested copies of the warrant were posted on January 5th, 2023, being at least 7 days before the special town meeting. At the Lyman Town Hall, Lyman Transfer Station, Main Homestead Market, Lyman Variety and Pizzeria, Lyman's Mill Store, and Lyman Dayton Community Library, all being conspicuous places in the town of Lyman. The first order of business on the warrant is to act on Article 1, choose a moderator to preside at said meeting. Do I have any nominations for moderator? I nominate Rick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do I have any further nominations? Hearing none, ballot clerk will pass out slips to vote for moderator. Whoever would like to vote for moderator, we only need 5.
So, anyone want to take a ballot and a pencil and write down the no?
Yeah, it would be good here.
Michelle, I'm happy to help you.
I'm just gonna ask you to, would you like to volunteer? There's 2 there. Here. Would you like to volunteer? Do you like to volunteer? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Pencils? All right. I think I did it. Nice. I don't know if you made it, but we'll check.
If I didn't, I'd vote fraud.
Recall, 3, 4 for recall, and 5 for recall.
Thank you all.
Surprise.
I will administer the oath of office for the moderator. I, Richard Holder, of Lyman Dayton, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. I, Richard Holder, that I will faithfully to the best of my ability, the duties incumbent on me as moderator of this meeting, according to the Constitution and laws of the state of
Oh, you're welcome. Good. Much better.
At this time, I'll present to you moderator's manual and the gavel.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to make sure I was.
Yeah, he's up there. That's great.
Well,
Yeah,
relax.
There he is.
Slide in. Wait a line.
Welcome. I know, right?
You didn't get, do you know who I am?
No, it didn't work.
I actually said, do I do this?
She said you
I don't
still
know
need
if
to
I
say
did,
it.
like, they're like, why wouldn't you? You're registered to vote, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, no, it's fair. I was wondering that today, like,
I said
This
this.
is,
I'm like thinking I should, but I don't know.
I do that to get them underneath, so they're not banging up against this and chipping it.
so this is after.
I do it. It's this thing I have.
Hello again.
How are you?
Good. It's like 3 times in 1 week.
Short week.
What's going on?
Where's my
So he's already been voted in as moderator.
Yeah.
He's already been sworn in.
Mhm.
I don't know what he is.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you. This is so silly.
All caked up now. We double
Special.
Huh?
Right, I got that agenda, and this is, I can't.
Oh, thank
believe
you.
we got this many.
Tom did it. Tom worked hard doing it. He did. He worked really hard on it.
Yeah, it was a team effort. No, but I got the design and they picked out the stuff. And there's more coming. Pictures. Exactly.
Whatever, we'll learn it. See what.
No, I won't get used to that.
No. I was wondering.
You like those chairs? They're pretty comfy. Trying.
So what is all this for? I'm scared.
I think this is just some examples.
Yep.
Well, the witching hour has arrived, so we're ready to begin the meeting. Shirley, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quarter moderator.
My name is Rick Hull. You elected me as your moderator. It's my job to read the articles and listen to the debate and moderate. We also have perhaps two non-residents who are employees of the town and who may wish to address some of the questions, because I'm sure they'll have to do with numbers, and the treasurer is here and perhaps the tax collector. So Jeanette LeMay is the treasurer. She's not a resident of Lyman, and Sue Belrose is the tax collector and also is not a resident of Lyman. And in order for a non-resident to speak, 2/3 of the membership, 2/3 of the meeting must approve that a non-resident speak. And so I'd entertain a motion to allow Jeanette and Sue to speak if appropriate.
Make a motion that Jeanette and Sue speak as appropriate.
Is there a second? And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those against, say nay. So it's carried. Article 2 reads, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $115,030.50 from surplus to be added to the $5,000 from the HR job study previously appropriated, being a total of $20,030.50 for the purpose of an HR, which is Human Resources Job Study. The current budget is $5,000. The selectmen recommendation is the 20,030,50, as well as the budget committee's recommendation. Is there a motion with respect to this?
Can I just say that you said 115,000,
I did.
not 15,000, so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
15,000 or 30. Well, some of that was my fee.
Sorry.
Wow.
Okay, so the number was $15,030.50. So we had it has been moved and seconded. And is there any discussion with respect to the article? Hearing none, does anybody have any questions of the selectman or the treasurer? Dave?
Nobody else wants to talk, I will. Do I go up there or do I talk from here?
Well, I think the group's small enough that you can
Okay.
be heard.
I have a couple of issues with the article. We just passed a town charter, new town charter in the spring. One of the issues which promoted the town manager concept was that our current select board didn't have the time or the expertise to handle all the HR matters that were coming up. And I agree with that. The town manager, as we know, some of us know, if you read I'm gonna read right from the charter. The administration of the town and town employees shall be vested in the town manager. Personnel policy. The town manager shall develop a personnel policy document. This document shall contain items such as, but not limited to, recruiting and hiring process, fringe benefits, pay scales, and a bunch of other stuff. Section 433, job description and funding sources. The town manager shall develop job descriptions for each job or employment position within the town government. Each job description shall contain the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to successfully perform the tasks. It appears to me that what this study is going to do is pretty much what we're going to pay a town manager to do. Now, some would say that we should do it now before the town manager comes. Well, I don't believe that's true. I think the town manager should be the one who sets the scope of this project and who manages it, because he's the one who's going to have to live, he or she is the one who's going to have to live with the outcome. I believe that we're throwing $20,000 down the drain. If the new town manager comes in, they could very well say, well, I don't know, that's not quite right. I think we should re-look at this. I think we're putting the cart in front of the horse here. We ought to wait a couple of more months when we'll be hiring a brand new town manager and let them handle this study. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Andrew, I'd like to know why the selectmen proposed this to start with, what the reasoning is behind it at this particular time.
You want me to take that? I have no issue.
Yep.
So we proposed this as a way to prepare for the town manager. Town manager was voted in November. And the idea behind this is a hard reset. So review job descriptions, review personnel policy, develop a job description for the town manager, develop a draft of a contract for a town manager, so that when we do hire a town manager, we can bring one in to hit the ground running. And then, of course, as positions, people retire or resign or things develop and change, the town manager, as Dave mentioned in the chart, that outlined in the charter, would still go back to each job description as needed to review, and typically on an annual basis as part of the performance evaluation process to say, okay, is this still an accurate job description? Is the personnel policy still accurate? Are we still using these systems or have a need for that function? So the reason behind the proposal is to prepare, and really, I mean, there's years of job descriptions that don't necessarily align with each other. There's years of different reasons for salary increases. There's just years of compounded things that deserve a hard reset so that somebody can start fresh when they come in and be successful.
Evelyn Ward, I just wanted to know, the only experience I have is with teacher contracts. and state employee contracts. And I wondered if this passes and this company comes in, what's the weight of what's the weight of their recommendations? Is it like a state contract where they're locked in for like a year, 2 years, or can changes be made?
For a town manager or for
No,
the,
if this plan. for
this is a
personnel,
one-time, this plan is a one-time,
One-time.
review
thing.
everything all at once,
Okay.
turn over job descriptions, turn over a contract, turn over compensation study. So we end up with a hard report at the
Right,
end.
right.
And then if it's an as-needed thing from there on out, at
So
that
it's
point
im-
it would be.
So if it's implemented, it
Yeah.
doesn't have the weight of a state employee contract. It can be reviewed as often as.
Correct.
Security.
Yep.
Just you state how long it normally takes to, do you
To,
have a ballpark, how long usually?
for this type of a study, typically 3 to 4 months by a consultant firm like this that performs this type of work. Which again is the reason for the timing, so that we have that data to be ready for budget season, so that we can make, I mean, we all, maybe we don't all, but at town meeting every year, we talk about, there's people that feel that town of Lyman employees get paid too much, there's people that feel that they don't get paid enough, and then there's the people in between. And this gives us hard data that this consulting firm, whoever it may be, would review comparable towns to Lyman. So it's not going to compare us to the city of Portland. It's not going to compare us to Kennebunk. It's going to find towns that function the same way that we do and kind of line that up and say, oh yeah, with this position, you're right on track. You're in line with where you should be compensation wise. But this one, you're like either you're a little higher, you're a little low. It's not to take money away from people. It's to try to find a way to have a overtime system to balance that scale. Sorry, I'm a hand stalker too.
Yes.
Sue Briggs. My only question is following this vote, we're gonna open RFPs for the job study.
Yep.
Why aren't we opening those RFPs prior to voting on the money to be allotted for that study? I mean, we don't know what's in those RFPs for bids.
Mhm.
It might be 25,000, it might be 60,000, it could be more than that, unless we already know who's gonna be awarded, who's gonna have.
So I don't think we
awarded to
are-
them.
I'm sorry.
So my question is there a function to move the RFP opening up prior to us voting on it? So that at least we know that we are covering whatever we may be deciding is the study cost, without having to have a second special town meeting, which costs the town some money, $1,000, $2,000 to hold this meeting tonight.
Mhm.
So we could essentially eliminate that effort if we were to just open the RFPs now, even if they said, okay, 10,000, 15,000, whatever. Because it really seems to me that 20,023, I believe, and 15 cents or 50 cents
50 cents.
is a very odd number to request from us without having knowledge of what a consultant is already gonna bill you. I mean, I wouldn't put 50 cents on a request. If it were me writing it, I'd put an even number, $20,000. Simple as that. It's my piece.
You want me to answer?
I just have a question relative to that.
Is your question relative to?
Relative to that,
If
yeah.
you wouldn't mind, Jeanette.
Sure.
David ask his and then you can.
Yeah, I just saw the RFP. It was published not too long ago. I'm on the email list and I got it from the email list like yesterday.
Yesterday.
Just information, when did this RFP go out? How long did people have to bid on
Beginning of the month.
it? So it was
It was-
actually out
it
there
was-
for a month. but
when
we
you
didn't
guys
find out
decided
about
to
it
move
until the other
forward.
day. 2 weeks it was out?
I think it's been long. We'd have to confirm that. I think it's been since the end of December.
Yeah, I think so. I think
On
you
the
guys
website.
voted at your last meeting in December to move forward.
Because
I
the
believe
first
that's
written RFP I saw was like 2 days ago.
It's on the, I know it's on the town website. I know that.
Yeah, that's where I found it.
And that's where it was.
But I didn't see it before that, so I was just wondering if it went out. How many people did you send it out to?
I don't have that information.
I can answer that.
I guess.
Go ahead.
So to answer some of the questions, when we started looking at this, Lindsay did make several phone calls to several different companies to get an idea of, we came up with a scope of work. She called them and said, with this kind of scope, what should we expect for a price range? We got a range that 18 to 20. If you vote the 20, then that would be only for this project. So if the RFPs came in less than that, it goes back into your fund balance. The reason that it's an odd number is originally that the Board of Selectmen had decided to try and use the HR feasibility funds, which were $9,030.50. So that's where the odd number comes from. And there was some discussion with the budget committee, and they didn't want to do that. So that we stayed with the odd number, and they changed it to all coming from the difference coming from fund balance. So I hope that helps to explain why it's such a weird number. And we did go out and we did check on, what would this cost before we even talked with the selectmen about it. As far as who it went out to, it went on the MMA website. We put it out to people that we know do these types of things. I had a complimentary compensation study from the city of Bath. We contacted that company. I knew of a couple other companies, and we put it out to them as well. So I hope we have quite a few. There's 5, I guess. There's 5 bids here to be open. Are there any other questions about that?
Well, Candace, is there a reason we can't open the bids before we vote? What is the reason for that? And what happens if we end up with allocating $20,000 and it only costs 14? And the opposite question, what happens to the money if we vote the 20,000 and it costs 23? Like, what are our plans at that point?
If it costs 23, we can't move forward because they're only asking you for 20 tonight. They cannot move forward without the additional 3,000. The quotes that we got were less than that. And don't mind me, I had dental work done earlier. The quotes that we obtained were less than that, but they weren't formal quotes either. So they cannot move forward if we don't have anything less than 20,000. If it's 16,000, anything left over goes back into your fund balance, which is where this money's coming from.
And then can you answer the last one? Is there a reason we can't open them before we vote?
I can't answer that. That would be the select.
I would just think the due diligence of going through a proposal and going through a bid takes time. And it's not, we need to at least read up on it a little bit.
Can't hear you.
When we open a bid, we need to do the due diligence of researching the company or at least reading through the bid, seeing if they're all apples to apples. There's a little time that's involved in that. And it's
I've done a lot of bids in my life, and I agree with what you're saying. I'm not suggesting that we make a decision. I'm just suggesting that before we make a decision, we at least just have an idea if we're in the right ballpark. I mean, we could open 5 bids and know we're from 14 to 22, and then I personally would feel pretty comfortable, like, okay, we're gonna be in the right ballpark, or we're at least close. If you open those bids though, and it's either really low or really high, it might change how I feel. I'm not suggesting we read every single thing, just are we close?
Well, I feel comfortable knowing that we're relatively close just based on the research that we did beforehand of checking with companies and saying, hey, you did this study for Bath. What does that look like if you were to do something for Lyman? Just ballpark it. And that's when it came in. I don't remember what she came back at.
I think it was 18 something
So I think
for that.
we put 20 to make sure that we're covered, so that we would be covered to try to do our due diligence. So, and that's not a guarantee of what's in those envelopes. Let me be clear. So.
I don't believe that's on the warrant for the meeting to open the bids.
Right, and I don't know if there was a bid opening date.
It's after this.
Right after this meeting.
Let's open them now.
I was Bill Single.
Let's see if we even have enough to cover it.
We're in a special, right? I don't believe that's.
I don't think we can, you can't change it,
No,
can you?
Yeah, I
that's
don't
right.
think you can
There's
at
only
this
one
point.
thing, there's only one thing on the
Yeah.
warrant.
So procedurally, we
You
can't
know,
change
it's
it.
either up or down on the question.
But I think that you'd be willing to entertain that in the future if you, am I correct on that?
I would be.
Good suggestion.
Mike Westwell, I think that you do your due diligence as a select board. I think that that's why you're there. I think that you're supposed to make some calls, figure out where things go, and then you put a number out to us. I think that you really are giving people, like, it complicates the process. So I appreciate you making the calls, figuring out the ballpark, rounding up, and then it really gives us an opportunity to be conservative fiscally, to vote. We say we vote up until this number, we will accept the bid, and it puts a cap on it. I appreciate that. I think that's the right way to do business.
Yes.
There. My question is, if we do this, let's say we pass this and we get the study. The study, to me, especially with salary information, is a shelf life. And how, let's say we don't get a town manager in the next year. Is it up to the select board to, I'm assuming there's going to be an outcome of that, let's say they were underpaid, let's say, that, are you gonna remedy that, or would you wait for the town manager?
So I don't want to be the only one talking if anyone's
Yeah,
dying to
don't
speak,
worry,
but I'll just say that I think as a board, I think what we're doing this, especially this budget season, is using this to make informed budgeting decisions to work on next fiscal year's budget, because we don't have a town manager right now. And that wouldn't go into effect until the beginning of next budget year, which is July 1. So that's what I think the board would do with this data immediately, is try to see what that looks like and what the recommendations would be as far as, because from what I understand in a study like this, it's not going to say, hey, this person's underpaid by $20K, you better bump them up this fiscal year. It's hey, how do we phase that to get it more competitive and in line with where it should be? So
I looked at the comprehensive the study that was done here, and there's a lot of information there, and it's a lot to look at. And a lot of that is, to me, is, even for Bath, it was not data that was even comparable to their town.
Okay.
So we're such a small town, looking at, we have a smaller selection of towns. And I mean, $20,000 seems like a lot of money, you know, to us.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, make sure we use this if we pass it. And that, that employees, I mean, what I found valuable was the employee feedback.
Yep.
The employees had the chance to say, this is working, this isn't working, versus all these, because this did say that people were underpaid or overpaid in this particular study.
right.
And I noticed there was comment about it being independent. It is to a point. This particular study had input from the town, positions we don't have in this town. So they were like ruling out certain things, including, there was a lot of, survey data from other towns, and then it depended on, not everyone's gonna respond to that.
Right.
I've just seen similar things in my past work life where, not to this extent, but
Right.
nobody, it's a lot of data to digest, and I've seen, it just feels like it's padding to me. It's
Sure.
like $100,000 study.
Right.
It just seems like there's a lot of irrelevant data, and data that they pull from the internet. That's, public data.
Sure.
But if when the town manager is hired, they are allowed to ask the select board to have the study done, correct? They could come and ask for money to have the study done, because I'm assuming town managers delegate. I mean, I can't see the town manager taking their first year in writing studies and looking at salaries and sending FOIAs to towns. It's like trying to get your own insurance quotes at the base level, calling people and doing it that way. You depend on your insurance agent to get your quotes for you, because you spend weeks of your life. I'm assuming that would be acceptable for the town manager to delegate having a study done for the town, that they would then use that information as well. Or we had it for them when they came here, correct?
So
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
MMA on an annual basis does a salary survey and publishes it every year to all the MMA members. Why do we have to pay for something that we already have as far as the salaries in comparable groups?
I think that this has a consultant that's specialized in it and is familiar with towns to scale. And MMA is taking self-reported data, so it'd be like if Jeanette or anybody goes on and says, this position makes this hourly rate. So you still have to compile all that data and analyze it and determine what's apples to apples, right? Because a clerk or a tax collector, all those positions in different towns have a whole slew of different duties dependent on the way their town is set up. So.
Thank you.
ladies first.
Just wanted to, this isn't a question, but it seems like if this went through and it was a very well done report, which it should be, I guess I can't think that you would hire a town manager who wouldn't want to assimilate some of the things that have already been done. The only problem is we don't have, there won't be enough time to see how it works, how that, all those changes. Because I can imagine that there's going to be a lot of anxiety on employees' parts, especially the salary, the benefits, all that is very, very tough. And so if somebody new comes in and has to deal with, now what? That's just a comment, but I can imagine in school, the new principal superintendent came in and they had to start from scratch. That would be hard.
Yeah, you mentioned that this would be a good information to have for the budget for this next fiscal year. Well, it's gonna take a couple of weeks to award the contract. You already said it's gonna take 3 to 4 months to do the project. That gets us in June. I hope we're gonna have a budget long before June.
What's the plan?
May I address that?
Go ahead.
Please.
So when we wrote up the RFP, we did it in increments. And we asked certain increments be done beforehand, before the rest of it. And one of it is the salary information and the benefit information. You will have a budget. We pretty much have a lot of the budget done except for the salaries and benefits.
Is there any further discussion? Yes.
Kevin Bear, how many employees are we talking here? Everybody in the town hall, the transfer station, does it include the fire department? How many positions are we studying?
Every position in town hall, every stipend position, including the recreation director, the registrar, the health officer, the ACO, everybody at the transfer station. Minimum wage went up to $13.80 on July 1st. That's an 8% increase. A lot of the guys at the transfer station are very close to that. If it goes up another 8%, they're going to be at minimum wage. Walmart, Wendy's, McDonald's, they're all hiring way above minimum wage right now. This is going to help us to understand where we need to go with that. There's also been some question industry standard and the employees paying part of their insurances. We don't know if that's the industry standard. Is that the way the industry is going? It's going to help us understand that as well. So we're hoping to answer some of those questions. It does not include the fire department. The fire department would have to be a joint venture between us and Dayton, and the fire commission would have to determine that.
The question was asked, how many employees are gonna get in this program? If you send it out, you had to give somebody some idea of the number of people that they're gonna survey.
Yeah, and my apologies, I don't have that right now. It was every employee that we pay for the town of Lyman, including stipend positions. I don't have the exact number right now. What?
Rough. It's like 30.
Yeah,
I'd
something,
say it's
something
not
to
more
that
than 50.
effect. Thank you.
Yes.
Who acts as point person? Say we do this, we award this contract, who becomes point person? Is it the board? Is it, like, who are they directing questions to since there isn't a town manager?
I would, the board would need to discuss that. I would recommend to them that whoever needs to speak to them, they appoint a liaison and their select board clerk be the center point to get the information to them that they need to get.
Any other discussion? And I'll call for a vote. Article 2, will the town vote to appropriate $15,030.50 from surplus to be added to the $5,000 from HR job study previously appropriated, being a total of $20,030.50 for the purposes of the HR job study? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
They, yeah, let's hold up the, where are my counters? All those in favor, hold up the purple card.
Is this yay?
Yeah.
25?
She's slow.
25?
25 is, all those opposed?
I have 9.
Oh, sorry, I just laughed.
Sorry, she. Post.
You didn't even push the one that was put down.
Okay, opposed, one more time.
She has to check my count.
9.
The ayes have it.
I'm so sorry.
That concludes the meeting.
Moderator, I move this meeting be adjourned.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming,
Thank
everyone.
you. Good questions. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
What are you doing next? Where are you going next?
Well, I'll be back at the gym on
Yep.
Sunday.
Rest of
I know, I'm so bummed about that.
Oh, yeah. She's
It is
married to the tall
I get
6'4"
it.
guy
It's
that
such a
usually
crappy
stands in the
time
back
to
when
try to
I'm
do that.
He's taking care of the granddaughter.
Absolutely. Help, yeah.